This is the Everyday AI Show, the everyday podcast where we simplify AI and bring its power to your fingertips. Listen daily for practical advice to boost your career, business, and everyday life.
How do we even govern AI? Can we? Is it just the Wild West and we're all just living in this current reality? So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today on Everyday AI. This is your live daily. It's a daily live stream where we bring on expert guests so you can ask them questions, going to podcasts on Apple, Spotify, everywhere else, and a free daily newsletter. So make sure you check that out at youreverydayai.com. So before we talk about how can we even govern what's going on in the world of AI, let's talk about what's going on in the world of AI, because there's a lot. So let's start at the top, because this actually has to do with governance a little. So U.S. senators had their first ever classified Senate briefing on AI yesterday. So they kind of hinted at there may be legislation in months, but this was a pretty big meeting. So the Director of National Intelligence, the Secretary of Defense, and others coming together with U.S. senators to hold some first official discussion on the governance of AI. My hot take, y'all. It's whatever the U.S. Senate comes up with. I don't think it's going to work. If you've seen some members of Congress ask questions of tech leaders, it's not good. So we'll see, hope for the best, but we'll see what actually happens. The next piece, an Indian CEO is facing huge criticism after he kind of went viral on Twitter talking about how he laid off 90% of his support staff in favor of an AI support bot. Okay, what's the big deal? Well, turns out he was also selling that support bot. So took a bunch of heat on that one. So another news story worth talking about is it's not just Hollywood writers fearing AI. A news story that we're going to be sharing about in the newsletter is talking about how Great Britain's Writers Guild as well also fear being replaced. AI is a worry for them as well. And last but not least, this is I wouldn't say this is fun. This is actually kind of scary. But the VC billionaire Mark Andreessen laid out two scenarios for AI. So this is, Andreessen is kind of a very well-known person in the tech space, but he says AI would do one of two things: either eliminate the need for labor in a best case scenario, or lead to Chinese world domination. So I hope there's an option C. I don't know if I or people, at least here in the U.S., like any of those two options. But let's talk a little bit more about it, because we do need to figure out what to do with AI. How can we control it? How can we govern it? Should we? And for that, don't worry, you're not just going to hear me rambling on. I have a guest today that is going to help answer some of those questions. So let's bring our guest on today. So we have, joining us live, very excited about this, John Chiappetta is the principal and CEO of HG Technical Consulting. John, thank you so much for joining us.
Jordan, thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
All right. So this is, let's first, before we dive into the specifics, John, give everyone a little bit of your background, because it's not just in the consulting space, but you're also out teaching AI as well. So tell everyone a little bit about what you're doing in this space.
Yep. Currently I'm working at Harper College in Palatine as an adjunct instructor, and working with the students there and teaching them about an introductory level of AI. Along with other teachers there, we've put together a curriculum. I think that's going to be probably the best in the Northwest suburbs, to be honest. I haven't heard it from any of the schools, and they're really wanting to get this type of education out there accordingly. So the students that I've taught already they get excited after the class. They want to have more. Their hunger just started to get built up, and then it's almost like a letdown when the class is over. I'm like, no, we got more classes. So, but yeah, I'm doing that. And in fact, we're having a meeting in a couple of weeks to go over and to kind of firm up what our fall semester is going to look like. So Harper's doing a lot, and I'm glad I'm part of it.
Yeah, that's exciting. But also, in your background, so you've worked with, just so we can set the context a little bit, you've worked with big companies,
yes,
right?
So my first 10 years, I was with the Quick Roads Company. then with Kraft for the next 5 years after that. Then I went off on my own in consulting, but in that consulting, I went away from the food business and got into companies like Allstate, Ameritech at the time, another company called Wheels, Blue Cross Blue Shield is another one that I work with. Also Medline, Hyatt Hotels was another one. And then the American Medical Board of Specialties, which kind of governs the doctors that have specialties like pediatric cardiologists, things like that. And all of that was basically helping them get along with their technology, whatever challenges they had, we tried to resolve and go from there. It's been a lot of fun, learned a lot.
Yeah. Wow. So just wanted to set the stage because we do have, people tuning in from all across the US, but also all over the world. But what I wanted to say is John knows his stuff, right? He's working not only has a background working with large and medium-sized organizations, but also he is teaching AI as well. So with that setup now, John, we have the ball on the tee. So now you can smash this one out of the park. So when it comes to AI, it seems like the Wild West, right? There's no, at least here in the US, there's no official laws, rules, or regulations. So how should companies start to govern AI internally? Should they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to me, the thing that the companies today want to do the most is they want to mitigate risk. They want to ensure that there's policies and procedures in place, and to ensure that their private information, their intellectual property doesn't get distributed and copied. Okay. And so with that, you've got this governance approach that we should be taking. It actually came up in one of the classes because students brought up, like, well, AI is doing good for here, but AI can also do bad things too. How do we balance that? With the right proper governance and policies in place, Jordan, it can happen. And there's characteristics of that governance as well too. Need to be transparent. That's number one. I mean, right now, you need to explain what your systems are doing when you're working with an AI. You don't want to be like, sorry, can't see that. You need to cover up. You need to understand and release that. So be transparent is number one. You need to be held accountable. And that to me is like clear lines of understanding and identifying responsibility with what you're doing. And this last one, there's more, but ethical frameworks need to be put in place. And what does that mean? It really prioritizes the rights, the fairness, and the social well-being of what this AI product is doing. Focus on those top three. You're on your way to forming your own governance.
Yeah, you made it sound so easy, John. Hey, it's as easy as this, right? So I wanna unpack that there. But before we do, just as a reminder, if you are tuning in live, please drop any questions that you have about governance in AI for John. So we do have a couple of people joining us, so I just wanted to give them a shout out. So Scott, I'll definitely send you over the PPP information. Rasafa, thank you for joining us. So if you do have any questions, please toss them up. That's what we're here for. So, John, we went over a lot of things there in that first response, talking about mitigating risk, intellectual property, balancing the good and bad, ethical frameworks, right? So much to unpack there. But maybe let's start at the top, because I think one thing that is causing a lot of headlines maybe is when people aren't, or companies aren't mitigating risk, or they don't have any safeguards in place. And then you see, this person uploaded sensitive documents or sensitive information into ChatGPT, or, this person submitted false, hallucinations to the court. So how do you even start that process? Because mitigating risk is huge, because as much good as there can be just as much bad. So how do companies start that?
I mean, the first and foremost thing is education. I think, Jordan, the companies really need to understand what's going on. If they want to pivot in terms of what they're doing with with their company and understand what's coming at them, AI is not only going to come at them, they're going to have to deal with it as well. So does my dog. But the idea is that one of the things that's happening is the education. Understanding is the best thing that can be done.
Yeah. So speaking of understanding, let's pivot, but I do want to come back. But let's talk about kind of what you're doing right now at Harper College. So,
Okay.
There's not a lot of I don't think anyways, maybe, drop a comment if I'm wrong, but there's not a lot of, colleges and universities that are fully embracing AI. So let's talk about that quick. And then we'll come back to the business side. So, what does that look like right now? Just kind of teaching the AI class at Harper.
Are you still running in circles trying to figure out how to actually grow your business with AI? Maybe your company has been tinkering with large language models for a year or more, but can't really get traction to find ROI on Gen AI. Hey, this is Jordan Wilson, host of this very podcast. Companies like Adobe, Microsoft, and NVIDIA have partnered with us because they trust our expertise in educating the masses around generative AI to get ahead. And some of the most innovative companies in the country hire us to help with their AI strategy and to train hundreds of their employees on how to use Gen AI. So whether you're looking for ChatGPT training for thousands or just need help building your front-end AI strategy, you can partner with us too, just like some of the biggest companies in the world do. Go to youreverydayai.com/partner to get in contact with our team, or you can just click on the partner section of our website. We'll help you stop running in those AI circles and help get your team ahead and build a straight path to ROI on Gen AI.
It's exciting. It really is. I mean, Harper is really putting in the time. They're gaining the funding to get these classes in place. They're educating the educators as well about this whole subject, and they're taking pride in making sure that it's communicated out to the corporate space as well too. Students are actually filling up these classes. I've been teaching at Harper for about a good 10 years now, and I think this is something that everyone is interested. So classes fill up really quick. And they're excited when they get in because they want to know what's going on. What are some examples? What are some things that AI is doing? And in the class, we show them examples live. We actually get them to be interactive with some of the things that are presented. So it's like learning what is machine learning like? Can we do that? Can we create a process that we can train a model? So it's kind of cool when they see, wow, this is really, and they did it on their own. It's not like I told them what to do. They just followed the instructions and they could see it on their own. So like training the model, I think, is one of the biggest things because you use a certain tool and you show them a pen or a pencil. And once you train the model, if you show the model the pen or pencil, it'll tell you which one it is. Mm-hmm. So they get a kick out of that. And then they start unleashing like ideas on their own. So it's really kind of cool.
Yeah. So speaking of that, you talked about the outputs of what's coming out of this course in AI at Harper, and maybe students are quicker to pick up and learn and to make adjustments than businesses, right? Because a lot of times, especially small, medium and large businesses, it can take them a while to self-govern, right? They can't just be like a student, learn something new and put it into practice because it's not that easy. So even going back into, what we started talking about, ethical frameworks in businesses, how, if someone out there listening, maybe they're a small to medium-sized business owner, maybe they're a director at a larger business, what can they do to address that ethical piece in using AI in their business?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that they need to be aware is that AI also brings a certain level of bias, okay? And that's something that they need to be aware of, and how do you handle that bias within that tool, okay? And we talk about that in the class at Harper that we teach. The other thing is also the marginalized communities. How are we impacting those areas for the better, not for the worse? Because that awareness level is the key. Making sure that companies are putting some forward thinking towards that and investing in making sure that they can have a framework set up that's going to not only protect their assets, but also protect whatever products they're going to be producing in the future. And security is huge with AI. The ability that you can actually tell AI to go do something and it'll figure it out in like nanoseconds is just driving all the security chiefs, I think, in companies today crazy. absolutely nuts.
Yeah, speaking of that, a great question about security from Brownwind. So Brownwind asking, would it be a good time to learn cybersecurity? So like, not just that, but, how should companies be looking at cybersecurity as well in this new age of AI, deepfakes, all of this?
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that's a key point, because one of the things that we need to do in the governance side of things is do risk assessments. And without cybersecurity, we really won't be able to assess what type of threats we have. Okay. Learning from the history that we've collected. AI is great at collecting data, big, large amounts of data that we can then take a look at and see that the information that we're gathering is going to be new. It'll be identified quickly, and the ability then to affect a threat or to remediate a threat can be done in that instance as well too. We're not going to have that many. We're going to have, again, that balance, the good and the bad, that are going to be out there, and we need to be able to be on top of that. And part of the attribute of a governance program would be risk assessment with cybersecurity as that major link supporting that. Mm-hmm. And I think Browning's right in terms of learning cybersecurity. Not a bad idea at all.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of other industries that are far worse to get in. I think cybersecurity there's going to be a lot of security and growth in that field. So John, we did open the show talking a little bit about at least here in the U.S. What legislators are trying to do. Do you think I think a lot of companies are kind of playing the wait and see game to say, okay, is the U.S. government going to do something? Is my state or local, are there going to be any other laws, rules, and regulations? Do you think business owners or directors, managers, should we be waiting on some sort of authority to say, hey, here's how to use it and here's not? Or should we at least be developing best practices in our own businesses?
I think the latter, John, honestly, because the way that speed and technology moves together, if you wait, you're going to be left in the dust, in my opinion. Be proactive. Okay, let's understand what's happening. Get a type of assessment workshop put together that you can put together and get that going. If you wait, you're not going to learn as much as if you are actively involved.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Yeah, and I agree with you, John, because I think so many companies are just waiting, and I think it doesn't take long to at least get a baseline. So kind of like what Yadi is saying right here in this comment, saying she feels it's good to start with the AI principles, and then even if they're not fully baked, you can build and you can work on those. So another actually question from Yadi here. So we're doing a little bit of a turn here, John. So asking in the education space, why are educators polarized on AI detection in general? So, I don't know if that's something that you deal with a lot, John, but there's obviously students are using ChatGPT to write papers, might not be as problematic in the class that you take, but have you seen this at all in education, professors, teachers, really pushing off AI, and even with this content detectors?
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends that are in the academia space. Some are tenured professors in local colleges here as well. And what they're really looking at is how do we get the students to learn, period. If a student goes into ChatGPT and says, hey, write me a paper on this, great. They've done it. They've submitted it. The chances are the professor should know the student to see whether or not that's in that language that they're used to seeing. But all of a sudden, you got structured sentences, other things that they may not have used in past papers. Okay. And on top of that, we have a ChatGPT that can go check to see if that was, the percentage is ChatGPT generated or not. So the instructors and the professors, the educators, okay, are looking to see, are the students learning? That's their biggest reward. And if they're fostering a dependency on a tool, I could see where they're going back and forth, but make sure they know that, okay, you want to use GPT, we can find out if you did. And did you really want to take that chance?
Yeah. And I think, I have hot takes on this, but I'll save them because we actually, if you are listening to this and you want to know more, we actually had a full episode on this actually yesterday with Kelsey Beringer, the CEO of Packback. So make sure if you want to know more about that, make sure to check that out. So John, I have another question for you, and
Sure.
it looks like we might have one or two more from the audience here as we wrap, but. There's so much, right? So I started the show saying, is working with AI right now kind of the Wild West? And it can, it can take a while to get those best practices, to get steam, to get momentum. But where do companies start? Where would you recommend? Like, what is that first, right? Even when we talk about like, oh, okay, get guidelines. Okay, where? Like, how would you recommend that when it comes to governance? What is that first step that most companies need to take?
I think, first of all, define who your audience is, who your customers are, number one. Number two, go in and say, what product do we want to introduce AI to? All right. So put together kind of like a roadmap of what you want to be able to do. But then the biggest point of this is do your research. Okay. Make sure that, with AI, there's always something out there to take a look at. Get a right level of group that from the senior level all the way down to, I would consider the soldiers or the boots on the ground type of employee that can be involved. Diversity between those levels are going to give you the best answer on how a company should approach AI, how a company should use AI to foster, better revenue, better margins, and potentially take a look at the resources that they have as well too. And I think what's not being talked about, Jordan, is how do we readjust the resource gain by which we have this AI. There's a lot of fear out there that AI is going to replace research. Mm-hmm. If you look at it that way, it'll happen. But if you look at the way, how do we readjust our responsibilities as employees of the company is a key factor in how they approach it too. So how do you get started? Do your research, get a team together, focus on one aspect of your company that the AI can help with, and see what goes from there.
Yeah. What about even companies that haven't even thought about AI, right? So I think that, even here on the show, we always talk and we assume that most companies are using some sort of AI, even if we're not, going down the route that you're going through with your students, training models, machine learning, deep learning, all that. But, we assume all companies are using some sort of generative AI, but that's not always the case, right? Like some companies don't even fully understand it or know it. For those companies, John, like what would you recommend? Is it better to talk about governance before you even dip your toe into the usage, or do companies first need to see those applications, like what you said, identify the product, do the companies need to go through those steps first, or just put some sort of baseline governance in place?
I mean, to me, I'd say go take a class, have a workshop at your company. Okay. Honestly, because to me, the more they can see, visualize what it can do, will spark the ideas in their employees, in their management, hopefully, and making sure that they can say, well, do we want to pursue this or not? Are we ready to pursue this? Okay. Because it's going to take that type of organization to realize what's at stake. Okay. Now, you take in the workshop, you got some ideas underneath your belt, you're trying to understand it. And then when you want to formulate that plan to go forward and make that roadmap happen for real, then let's talk about governance. So governance isn't going to drive whether a company does or not. Governance is going to protect a company that's made a decision that they want to go forward with AI.
Yeah. It's such great advice, talking about the roadmaps and the roadmap and the governance, I think are two just fundamentally important steps for any company to make. So John, we went all over the place today. We talked about risk mitigation to students learning, machine learning, to ethical frameworks. We talked about a little of everything. Can't thank you enough for joining the show and for just letting all of our listeners know some of the basics. So thank you for joining us and imparting your wisdom.
And thanks for having me, Jordan. Looking forward to a lot more. Thank you so much.
All right. So as a reminder, if that was too much to keep up with, don't worry. That was a lot. We are going to be breaking all of this down in our free daily newsletter. So make sure you go to youreverydayai.com, sign up for that, let us know. Reply back. Let us know, what you liked, what you didn't, what you learned. And also, thank you for tuning in. We're doing this. We're going on 50 plus shows. So I'm excited to see, some other guests that we have coming up. So with that, thank you for joining us. And we hope to see you back tomorrow and every day with Everyday AI. Thanks.
And that's a wrap for today's edition of Everyday AI. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a rating. It helps keep us going. For a little more AI magic, visit youreverydayai.com and sign up to our daily newsletter so you don't get left behind. Go break some barriers, and we'll see you next time.